President Trump appeared on The Late Show with Barron, aiming to end the rumors once and for all. Just as attention peaked, two lab technicians stepped forward, and Stephen Colbert said, "We've invited professional technicians here to take a quick blood sample." The night had started like any other at The Late Show. The studio lights were bright, the audience buzzing softly with chatter, and Stephen Colbert sat behind his desk, going through his notes one last time. He knew the evening would be lively, but he had no idea just how unusual it was about to become. Suddenly, the cameras cut to a live shot of the audience, and a ripple of whispers passed through the room. There was a hint of excitement mixed with curiosity. Everyone could sense something was different tonight, though they weren't quite sure what. Then the announcement came. President Donald Trump would be visiting The Late Show. On its own, that wasn't entirely shocking. Trump had made several late-night appearances over the years, some tense, some surprisingly funny. But what the audience didn't expect, what no one could have predicted, was that he wasn't coming alone. Trump had brought his youngest son, Barron, with him. The crowd collectively leaned in, whispering to each other. Barron had rarely appeared in public alongside his father, especially in a setting like this. Why bring him to a comedy talk show? What's going on? The air was thick with curiosity. Some audience members exchanged glances, trying to guess the reason. Others simply waited, holding their breath. The story behind this unusual pairing was one that had been swirling quietly, then suddenly erupted into the public eye. For weeks, a rumor had been spreading, one so strange and unexpected that it had left many people scratching their heads. Certain public figures, including Jasmine Crockett and even former President Barack Obama, had been reported making comments suggesting that Barron Trump was not the son of Donald and Melania, but instead Ivanka's child. According to the claims, Barron's real parents were Ivanka and Donald, a notion that seemed so outrageous to some it was almost laughable. But to Trump, it was not a joke. Trump had watched the rumor grow, fester, and spread across every conversation, every headline, and every comment section. He had seen people whispering, laughing, and questioning the family he had built. For him, the idea was offensive, absurd, and personal. He was not a man to let challenges go unanswered, and he decided that it was time to confront the rumors head-on. He needed a way to show the world the truth, and he needed to do it decisively. That's when the plan was born. He would appear on The Late Show, a platform known for humor, for questions that could be sharp, for an audience ready to watch the unexpected. And he would bring Barron with him. The presence of his son was a clear statement. It was meant to be unarguable. Barron was his son, and Melania was his mother. He wanted the world to see it for themselves. The rumor, no matter how loud or persistent, would have no ground to stand on when confronted with reality in the spotlight. Back in the studio, the anticipation was palpable. Colbert had prepared for a Trump interview like any other. He expected humor. He expected tension. He expected the occasional awkward moment. But nothing in his years of experience could have prepared him for the weight of this visit. The audience was alive with excitement, trying to imagine what Barron would do, how Trump would react, and how the dynamics between the two of them might unfold. Would Trump try to use the moment for a joke? Would Barron speak up? Would Colbert manage to keep his calm in the face of what was clearly a high-stakes family intervention in front of millions of viewers? Outside the cameras, the production team whispered nervously. This was unusual, unprecedented even. There was an unspoken agreement that tonight's show could be one for the books. People speculated about the possible outcomes, a lighthearted exchange, an awkward standoff, or a surprising moment that no one could have predicted. Every eye in the room was on the stage, waiting for the first words to be spoken. Then, finally, Trump walked out. His presence filled the stage immediately, confident, composed, and ready for what he saw as a mission. He nodded at the audience and gave a small smile. Behind him, surprisingly calm and collected, was Barron. He looked older than his age, poised, almost aware of the significance of the moment he had been asked to take part in. The whispers in the audience rose again, this time louder. People could feel that something unusual was about to happen, that this was not just another late-night interview, but a statement made in a way only a public stage could deliver. Trump's plan was simple in his mind. Show up, be confident, present Barron, and shut down the rumor once and for all. But what he could not see yet was how the evening would unfold. How a simple act of bringing his son might shift the energy in the room, create tension, and set the stage for an encounter that would surprise everyone, including him. The lights shone bright, the audience quieted down, and the cameras focused on the two Trumps standing side by side. This was more than a talk show appearance. It was a confrontation with the world's curiosity, a statement against rumor, and the start of a night that would test both patience and strategy. For Stephen Colbert, the challenge was immediate. Stay composed, stay humorous, and handle a situation that had been carefully designed to take control. And for everyone watching, both in the studio and at home, it was clear nothing about this night would be ordinary. The unexpected visit had already set the tone, and every person in the room felt the suspense, the curiosity, and the tension. What would happen next was uncertain, but one thing was already certain. This would be a moment people would remember. As the cameras began rolling and the audience held their breath, Barron Trump sat beside his father, calm and composed in a way that surprised nearly everyone. He was quiet at first, his hands resting neatly on his lap, but his eyes reflected a sense of awareness far beyond his ears. This was not just another public appearance. It was a moment charged with expectation, tension, and a touch of history. Everyone in the room sensed it, though no one knew exactly what would happen next. Stephen Colbert began the show with his usual charm and wit, greeting the audience warmly before turning to his guests. "Welcome, Mr. President, and welcome, Barron," he said, smiling. But there was a hint in his tone that he knew tonight would not be ordinary. He had interviewed many high-profile figures before, but bringing a child into such a heated public debate over rumors was something new. The energy shifted subtly in the room. The audience leaned forward, eyes fixed on Barron, curious and waiting for the first words. Trump had barely spoken when Barron straightened slightly and spoke, his voice steady and clear. "My mother is Melania, and my father is President Trump," he said. The words, simple and direct, carried weight far beyond their length. It wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration. The audience reacted immediately, a ripple of applause and murmurs spreading through the studio. People were impressed by his composure, by the calm authority in a voice that belonged to a young boy, but sounded confident enough to command attention. Trump's face lit up with pride. His eyes shone, and for a moment, it was clear that his entire plan rested on this very moment. He nodded at Barron as if to say, "That's my boy." He leaned slightly forward and addressed Stephen Colbert directly. "You see, Stephen," he said, his tone a mixture of pride and triumph. "Even he knows the truth better than the people making those crazy claims." The audience clapped again, some genuinely impressed, others still processing the unusual scene unfolding before them. Barron, despite his youth, had managed to capture the room's attention. He had become the unexpected focal point of a debate that had started as a rumor and grown into a national curiosity. What many had assumed would be a light-hearted late-night segment had suddenly transformed into something far more powerful. Colbert, as always, responded with his trademark composure. He smiled politely, nodded, and acknowledged Barron's statement without making it awkward. He didn't mock or push back, instead letting the moment exist naturally. It was a subtle skill in letting Barron speak, and letting the truth be voiced by the boy himself. He gave the statement its full impact. The audience, sensing the balance between humor and reality, leaned in further, paying close attention. Trump, sensing victory, began to relax. He leaned back slightly, taking a small sip of water, and allowed himself a confident smile. He felt that the hardest part of his plan, proving Barron's parentage in front of the world, had been accomplished. For him, the moment wasn't just about silencing rumors. It was about showing strength, unity, and control. Having his son affirm the truth publicly was, in his eyes, the ultimate statement. But Barron was not merely repeating words he had been told to say. There was a confidence in his voice that suggested he understood the significance of what he was doing. It wasn't performative or forced. It was genuine. He had observed the world around him, understood the stakes, and chosen to speak clearly, calmly, and decisively. For many in the audience, that made the moment even more striking. This was not a child acting on someone else's instructions. This was a